back to my channel. I'm Liam. Round 16 is over. Teams are slowly becoming more complete. Trades are also slowly running out. So the main, everyone will have it'd be in different circumstances regardless to how much trades they have. A lot of people probably won't be trading this week. If you've got one or two, you probably want to keep them for long-term injuries, which still highly likely with 7 rounds to go. But if you do have trades, in this video I'll be just talking about a couple of underpriced players that if you might be short of a bit of cash that you could look at targeting, and I'll list my top 6 defenders, top 6 forwards and top 8 mids if you're wondering who to pick up out of those. And I'll start off with if there's any rookies that you want to be bringing in this week. It is a really tough one, and it all depends on your current situation. If you are struggling to have cover on your bench, Sharp is a very solid option. You are paying probably 30 more than a normal rookie for him, which might stop you getting to a player that you want. But I feel like coverage is pretty important. I feel like his job security is pretty safe, especially after the win last week. Gold Coast will probably be wanting to play more of their young ones, and he looked pretty decent out on the wing. So he's certainly an option. But if you do have coverage, if you're going to be like an M10, like your third midfielder, I'll be looking at bringing in just a loophole player, a mid forward, or a defensive mid, depending on if you've got any in the forward line or the defence. Or it all depends on how your team is structured. Unfortunately, we don't know the fixtures, so it's going to be hard to know because you prefer to pick players who are playing loopholing in the later games, but unfortunately you can't do that this year. But any 102, and preferably I would pick players with dual position status so you can flick them around and loophole in many areas, because some of you might have an F7 or a D7 that you can loophole with, or you just still might have a couple of rookies still on field that you want to loop about. So that's what I would do. There's no real options at 117 level, 120 level. Connolly at 123, 2 poor weeks, but again, if you want to, his job security seems half decent. So if he gets you to a gun primo, I probably would nearly go Connolly over Sharp if you're not worrying about coverage. Saves you 18k and gives you some DPP action as well. Enough about rookies though, they're pretty much over for now. Looking at some more of these bid-priced players that if you are short of cash, ideally you don't want to be bringing in any of these, but some people just haven't been able to make the cash, limited trades, might have an injury. So in the forward line, some role changes. Matthew Kennedy from Carlton, I do like him going to the midfield, averaging 100 his last 3. Got a nice little contested role and been solid. And with forward mid status, handy little DPP. And forwards are dominating the scene. That F5, 6, 7, 8 spot is pretty slim. So Kennedy saves you about 80k on some of them. So he's certainly an option, along with DeGoey. Role change, and it looks pretty solid, cemented now under Harvey. Playing a similar role to like a Dusty did back in the day, did last year. And they want the ball in his hands. Also playing Richmond this week, and so it's a good chance he could score, and plus a pretty low break even as well. He'll soon be probably 500k in a couple of weeks' time, and probably is a top 10 forward at the end of the day. Another one, probably more injury worries, but Franklin has hit a bit of form as of late. He does play Bulldogs this week. It'll be a tough matchup, but he's starting to hit not peak form, but better than what he's been producing in the last couple of years. Another mid, I don't know if he's on here. Yo is pretty much bottomed out in price at 440. Again, you don't need paying for straight mids. I prefer to risk it in a forward line. But if you need a mid, Yo's half decent option. And a defender who's a little bit underpriced, I feel, is Sard. Carlton haven't played the best two teams the last week, so he's been let off the chain a bit, but lowish break even, and probably averages 90, 95 in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, those are some mid-price options which I wouldn't personally want to go for them, but yeah, if you're cash short, even I feel like De Goey is probably one of the best options to bring in a forward, especially maybe some of you have a Coleman Jones who unfortunately didn't make the cash he needed to probably get to a danger, but De Goey is a pretty solid option for 100k cheaper. So on to these primos. I'll list my top 6 and 2 roughies. Laird is certainly number 1. Great midfield role. Can score even in a bad loss. As you can see, averaging 120 in his last 5. He is extremely solid. Most teams do have him. Mills, another defender playing midfield. He'll be number 2 on my list. Just been very consistent throughout the whole year. Had a toughish matchup this week, but he just seems to rack up. Fortunately, he'll be mid next year, but pick him up while you can. Luke Ryan's bounced back with a little bit of form. Balls, they love giving him the ball back there. Some cheap kicks, takes all the kick outs. I love it. Here's my number 3. Stewart, with his intercept marking ability. He had a poor score the other week, so he's not on here, but he's a great option. Fourth best average for the year. Plays Carlton this week, but you saw him back to his best last week with intercept ability. Hopefully, he just doesn't have to play on a Charlie Cameron every week. He'll be fine. Whitfield had an average week last week, but I feel like he's still top 6 mid. Racks it up. Was missing in that Melbourne game, but against the lower sides, he seems to get loose and pump out those 120s. Ridley had a slow mid part of the season, but he's taking kick-outs. Like Stewart, loves an intercept mark. I feel like he's a great pick, and he's slightly underpriced. I personally feel at $4.95 if you're looking for a defender. So they're my top 6. Roughies, Stephen May seems to have a nice role in the last. He just has a great role, kicking out from fullback as well, and has a lot of avenues to scoring with this spoiling, intercept marking, and Melbourne being the top sides. Points are distributed very nicely to them, and short with Hooley out becomes an interesting option. We've always known he scores much better without Hooley, so he's another roughie for the defenders. Into the forward line, a bit slim pickings, I feel. Not names you would have probably said at the start of the season, but you probably would have said these two: Zorko, Dangerfield, 1 2. Pretty self-explanatory. Look at the averages in the last couple of weeks. look what Dangerfield did last week. Zorka got to 99 with 12 touches last week as well. I just feel, and with Brisbane has a very nice run home. That's why I probably ranked Zorko 1, Dangerfield 2, but Dangerfield's a great target this week. If you missed out on him, he'll go up another 40k this week. Unfortunately, if you did miss him with that Coleman Jones, I feel sorry for some of you owners. But it's the SuperCoach game; it just kills you sometimes. Zeeble and Hall would be my next two. Consistency over the year for Zeeble been amazing. They just have a great role down there, chipping around, taking all the kick-outs, kicking to each other in the back pocket. And the ball's down there a lot, so their floor is pretty low, pretty high, I mean. And solid options for the rest of the year, but most people do have Zeeble. Hall is probably more of a unique, but wouldn't have expected those two being defenders. Two forward spots coming up covered by defenders. A pod option in the next few weeks, I feel, and I put him at F5 as Zach Bailey, playing a little bit more midfield. Brisbane have a great run home, and he showed last week 124. He's an absolute gun. He's going to be a brilliant player in the future. He might be. I feel like he's going to be a top 6 if he gets forward status next year. He'll certainly be a top forward. And probably a very popular pick next year. He's averaged 88 this year, but I feel like he's got 105, 110 written all over him next year. So he's F5, F6, 7 and 8. It's a bit of a iffy one, but picking a player in form, Jackie Stringer, wouldn't have expected that a couple of weeks ago, but I love his role. Similar to a Dusty Danger role. Contested possessions, goals. He's nearly the all-round player and hopefully his injury might be a bit of a worry, but he's been a good pick. It'll be an interesting one for next year, along with Bailey, along with DeGoey. If they can stick their roles, they will be popular picks next year. And Dixon and Dale, my pro 7th and 8th. Dixon hit a bit of form. Port, just be worried that next week he probably doesn't score a lot against Melbourne. But I just don't like putting keep forwards in the top 6. But he's a very solid option, along with Bailey Dale. Dale got rewarded with a few kickouts at the end as North kicked 8 behinds in that last quarter, so he racked up a lot late. But he's up there with in the back end of the forward line options, even though he's a defender. And along with the mids, I feel like there's a pretty self-explanatory, probably top 8 here. I'll go Bond number 1, McRae number 2. Bulldogs they're just a possession feasting team. McRae's consistency is unreal. Bontempelli is just, before this 83, couldn't go under 140. They're just amazing players. I see Bond probably winning the Brownlow this year. So hit them, they're probably top 2, and Bulldogs won't rest their players either. Top 2, third, I'm giving it to Parrish. He looked so good the other night against a pretty strong Geelong midfield. Just everywhere, contested beast, and coming up now kicking goals as well. So brilliant pick if you picked him up at 450k. He's been outstanding and will be for the future to come. Still, Miller and Lyons as their 3, 4, 5, 6, very consistent 120 average for the year. Miller still. Miller's come from the depth to become a top tier mid. He was outstanding against Richmond, and probably is a little bit untaggable with his running ability. So he's very surprise pack of the year, but great if you have him. And Lions has a great run home, and Steele's just beasting up, just tackling machine. Sad that I don't have him. Oliver would be number 7. He dropped a bit of form as of late, and I see him probably around the mark of that still Lions Miller, but hasn't been disposing it very well as of late. Only averaging 100 in his last 3, but I feel like he's still a top 8. I can't leave him out. And Josh Kelly, I think it was underscored last week. I'm glad he only got 118. He absolutely dominated and rounds out the top 8. The GWS have a very nice run home. Softer miss out, Merritt, Mitchell, Cunnington, Sam Walsh, all very solid options at the back end, who I wouldn't be scared to come up against if they're in my league matchup. So that's my... and with the rucks, Gordon, Grundy, but Nick Nat and Darcy have held their own the last few weeks, if you did offload Grundy in that week. But it's pretty... Most 95% of teams have the Gordon Grundy combo, so that doesn't overly matter as much. But hopefully, I've given you some decent insights into who to pick up this week. Thank you again for 100 subs. Greatly appreciated, and I'll keep hopefully give you some half decent content. Unfortunately, my team hasn't done that well this year after a 32nd last year, but hopefully I've helped you all. I don't know if I'll continue these trade talk videos because trades, it'll be pretty much the same thing every week. But I might do a couple of short videos picking out any underpriced players that might see that are tempting, because these guns are going to be locked and loaded for the rest of the year. So I'll be back on Thursday with my preview of the round, my trades, and some captain options for the week. So till then, have a good one. Stay safe.